So some of it, Barry, seems a bit sort of speculative. It's sort of assuming that the people coming into the social housing might be troublemakers, which,
for sure.
That seems a bit unfair, doesn't it?
Well, the thinking around that, and you can see Ngātarangi had exactly the same thoughts. I don't know if you saw that reference in the OIA documents. So it's not something that I'm personally saying myself, but it's something that we have highlighted as a possible concern, where there's only 12 people on the waiting list on MSD, and they're proposing to build 15 social houses. So obviously people are going to be brought in from outside of the area that may not have a support infrastructure or medical services. There's no GP, and no mental health services in the area either. So if you've got people, you're moving into an area and they've got no support infrastructure, then there's a high possibility of issues. It's not to say that everyone's going to be an issue, but you only need a few bad apples being moved into the area where there's not many jobs and that sort of thing. It's mostly seasonal jobs, right? So a lot of holiday homes right next door, so with no fences or anything like that. So it's quite an area that's pretty ripe for the picking, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, that's only a small part of it. The main concern is the lack of consultation from council. It's a ratepayer asset, that piece of land, and it's been gifted or sold way below fair value, without any consultation, with the community. For a ratepayer asset, and that's the biggest concern we have. Everything else is obviously the secrecy around it is probably the second biggest concern, and then the third would be the pathway that they're removing, which all the residents, over 150 houses are going to lose access to that pathway while this is all being developed.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, and that's going to be redirected through this subdivision that is not abiding by the district plan and rules and the safety mechanisms that have been agreed upon with the community.
Right.
So there's a number of things. Obviously, you've mentioned one point which could be speculative, but or an opinion, but it's an opinion shared by a large proportion of people, including Ngātarangi. So
Right, although Ngātarangi are also of the opinion that that number, that 12 people currently on the housing register, and I will be checking with both MSD and Kaingaora about what the exact number is.
I'm happy to forward that email from Kangiora, where they gave the number from MSD. So they did send that through to me. There's 72 people in the district as of June, but yeah, there's
actually only 60 now.
Oh, 60. Yeah, okay. So that's obviously been updated since then. Yeah.
That's according to MSD. That's the latest figure. So obviously some people have been housed, which is good. But I've spoken to Weston, of course, and he's of course, a lot of this was set in train before he became the mayor. And there was, a consultation done in 2020.
In 2021. There was a consultation done in 2020 to adopt a housing policy.
Yes.
And if you ask the questions on that form, which only 21 people responded, if you ask the question, do you want council to help people, get into a house and thing, everyone's going to respond yes. But in 2021, at the long-term plan, they said that they would consult, and this is Mayor Don, what's his name?
Cameron.
Yeah, Don Cameron, and there's video, and he says, he wouldn't let, his words were, I would not let a ghetto be built in a town while I'm mayor. So he was of the opinion that he would, and he said he would consult further with the community, and that has never happened. A huge concern and a legal issue is that council, the CEO, Clive Manley, had a delegated authority given to him on the 5th of August in 2020 to sign an agreement with CIP to receive funding. Now, the contract that's been signed on the 4th of April this year he did not have delegation for that. It didn't say he could sign an agreement with Kangiora. It didn't say that he could gift land. So he's working outside of his delegation. Yeah, so...
Have you had a response from council about that?
Council, unfortunately, until the society was set up in October, they have been, and still, are hiding and keeping everything secret. So they're releasing bits of information 2 or 3 months after we've asked the question. So the Ombudsman, I can forward you 3 complaints already that they've investigated, and they've been, and in the council meeting tomorrow, if you look at the agenda, they've already said that they are going to be they're going to be in breach of the Lagoima Act for the time taken to respond. And that's all because of this Teitei Drive project, and they haven't been responding in time. Kangiora have actually been responding with incorrect information when they've had the information since July, and they're still responding incorrectly. So the Ombudsman's having a look at that complaint too, and we're pretty certain that's going to come out that they've withheld information against the Act. So. Yeah, I mean that we've got lawyers involved. We're going to take it to judicial. First up will be the notified consent, and that obviously goes through a commissioner, and we've got ecologists and environmentalists and everything looking at the report. And if it still continues after that, we will be going to judicial review and taking it to the High Court.
Okay.
So, yeah, we're very serious about this. So all the information is there. They are completely in the wrong, but the problem is the council is the approving consent authority for Ruapehu. So if you look at the information from NZTA, so the community mentioned to council all of our concerns. They held a public meeting that had a record-breaking attendance, over 150 people. The Mayor said he would call a special meeting with councillors and discuss it further, and then he would have a further public meetings with the community. But rather, he pushed through a resolution that 6 of 9 councillors asked for further consultation and to defer the matter. So, I think you'll find after once this all comes out in judicial review, you'll find that the Mayor and CEO have Clive have dug themselves so deep into a hole that they will do anything to try and make this happen just because they're going to look so bad. So, yeah, I'm just completely honest. Like they have pulled in a few of the councillors and got them to agree to let this continue, just to share the blame on what's going to come out. In the near future.
Right. Okay.
I know that's a lot to take in, and I might be blabbering, but I've been permanently working on this for about 3 or 4 months. 40, 50 hours a week type thing. So it's quite a mess what's been created.
Yeah, and you've got, there are councillors I have spoken to, Rabbit Nottage, although his concerns are quite different. I think he's...
Have a chat to Lynn Neeson if you can, because she's a second-term councillor. A lot of the councillors are new Rabbit, Nottage and Lynn are second-term councillors, or David Rabbit's been
fourth term.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So they've got
and I think Viv is as well. I think she's fourth-term councillor.
Correct.
As well.
So Viv is also someone that wants further consultation, and she's also stood up to the mayor and CEO a few times on this matter, but Lynn is definitely across it.
Right.
She actually, in one of the councillor meetings, called Clive. What were the words? She said that the community has been deceived or because no consultation took place. She's also confirmed our accusation that the report that was given on the 27th of September to councillors to make their decision, whether the project should continue, was actually a report for a different project. It was for Cherry Grove in Tamaranui. So it was a much smaller project. And this report basically is stating that they followed the Local Government Act, that they followed the policy of significance, that they had all the correct delegations of authority and everything. So she has called out and said that that report does not actually relate to this Teitei Drive project in Ohakune. So have a chat to her. She may not want to speak out too much because obviously this is all still undergo. And one of the problems is in the contract there is a statement from Kangiora. It's item 20 of the contract states that council will not reject or say anything bad about the project, and they will support. So it's a support item that they basically are gag ordered. So you might not be getting much information from Western Clive or any councillors because they've essentially got a gag order on them. And I'm happy to send you through that part of the contract.
Well, what Western did mention was Chatham House rules, where you can actually talk about what's been discussed in a meeting, but you don't name the people, which is fair enough. That sort of
That's another investigation the Ombudsman is doing. A month ago, he released a report, the Ombudsman, on what is required for council to go into public excluded meetings. And for the last 3 years, council have just put a two-word, confidential briefing as their reasoning for going into public excluded meetings, which does not give a summary of the facts or transparent local government to make the public aware of what they're discussing. So
yes, I think a lot of the councils in this region have had similar things. I know here in Whanganui we've had a number of closed meetings which were for commercial sensitivity, which is fine, but if the council's discussing building a hotel, then people really should know.
Yeah, I mean
it's been discussed that it's fair enough. Commercial sensitivity is fair enough, but when it's something as big as building a big hotel, people do, have a right to know that that's been discussed. So,
yeah, they have to provide a summary or a description of what they are discussing. They don't have to name the parties or anything, but they need to put social housing opportunity for Ohakune or something like that. And they haven't done any of that, so that's another breach that the Ombudsman is looking at. I was going to say, so when I've spoken to people in Ohakune, and a lot of people that call us NIMBY, that not in my backyard type thing, I ask the question of those few that are sort of calling us that. So number one is Ngātarangi had the exact same concerns we did, that it could create gang wars, it could pull people from out of town, whatever. But the question I ask is, if council had done this confidentially and secretly and agreed with Sky City to build a casino on that piece of land, how would people have felt about it then? So, yes, we completely agree social housing is required, but not in the intensified manner that they are proposing, and not on a ratepayer land unless it's been consulted on. So if council had done this exact same, they've gone and done this secretly, and some people are saying, well, that's wonderful for social housing, we need it. Yes, we do need it, but what if the tables were turned and council had agreed to sell that land or gift it to Sky City and they built a big casino on that land? How would you feel at that point? And people have understood that the consultation did not happen, and Clive and Western admitted, and it's on video, that they did not consult on this project in Ohakune in Teitei Drive. So,
right.
Yeah, I mean, only they called. I spoke in front of council, and sort of pleaded with them to please stop and consult and consider what's going on. And they called for a public meeting a few weeks later, and they had 15 seats set up for the public. And they actually said to me during my talk in the public forum, they said to me, "Are your 1,200 signatories going to come to this meeting?" And I said, "A lot of people are going to come." And they had 15 seats set up for people to come in. And I arrived, and there was hardly anyone there, and I was like thinking to myself, oh, people might not turn up. And actually, over 115 people turned up. Elderly ladies and people were having to carry a chair from a different room. And I've got a video of that. It just looked terrible. They just are doing this. They're laughing about it. They seriously are. And they just don't believe that there's opposition to this, and that's why we've set up the society.
Right.
Yeah, it's...
Okay. Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. You've given me a good perspective there, because, going for balance here. I'll make sure I get balance.
Yep.
And I'm checking with MSD as well as with, because I think, that will help to clarify for people how the system works with the housing register.
Yeah. So
because I think that's a bit unclear to people. I think people will be interested to know how it actually does work.
Yeah.
Because I know, Rabbit mentioned Rotorua, and apparently there were people coming from other centres.
Into Rotorua.
I mean, Rabbit said, they've been through it, so, we were interested to know what their experience was. So, that's fair enough, and I think, Rabbit is he's a straight up dude. He likes things to be straight up.
Yeah.
So, I quite liked what he had to say. He's got some good ideas, and, hopefully they will be considered, because he's passionate about his community and getting things right. So
there's the problem. Yeah. The problem is they're not going to be able to make any changes. They've submitted the resource consent, and they actually can't make any changes. They have to have this all signed off by the end of January, or is it March? Otherwise, the funding falls away. So to propose any changes would mean that the funding would disappear. So it's going ahead the way it is, no matter what. That's the problem. And sorry, just on the MSD, they won't actually provide you the number of people in Ohakune, but because do you know Andrea Vance?
Yes.
Yeah. So she did an article a few months back about the conflict of interest with one of their staff members, and requested how many people were on the MSD register, and they wouldn't actually give it to her, and said because of the small amount of people in the town they may be identifiable. But I do have the email from Renee Regal, who is the Manager of Community Engagement and Partnerships.
Yes,
what's your email, Liz? I'll forward this through to you.
Yeah, sure. So it's just Liz.Wylie, and Wylie is spelt W-Y for yellow, L for leather, I-E.
Yep.
Just one L, at nzme.co.nz.
Cool. I'll send you this email confirming the number of people. There were parliamentary questions asked, and they asked how many people were on the register, and they wouldn't actually give the number there, only the regional one, but we were lucky enough to get this before there was a big hoo-ha going on, so I've forwarded that to you now. But if you have any questions or want to bounce off any anything that's sort of suggested or questioned, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great. Oh, well, thanks for that. Yeah, I'm not allowed to actually talk to Renee. I did speak to her for a story about Whanganui housing some time ago, so I'd contacted her, but then I got a message from the comms person saying, I hear you reached out to Renee, please direct all questions through me. So yeah.
Oh, fair enough. That's all right. Well, you'll have a copy of that email I've just sent you from her. And yeah, like I said, speak to Lynn Neeson. I don't know how much she will give out on the project because, like I said, there's that confidentiality. Confidentiality and a no disparage type thing, or no, they have to support the project. But
support the resolution. Yeah, support the resolution. But yeah, there's no. You know, they yeah, I mean, she should still be able to speak if she wants to, as long as she doesn't sort of name people or point the finger at anyone. She should be okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm going for balance here, and hopefully,
100%,
you know,
that's fine. Yeah.
I do hope there'll be a good resolution for everyone. Cause,
I know the stock standard response you would get from Kangiora, and that will be, you know, we've been mandated to build homes, and we're doing this in an inclusive. You know, we engage with the community, but the truth is that they do a community engagement after they've lodged a resource consent. And this is, if you look at any article about housing projects from Kangiora in the last year, you'll see the same stock standard response from them, that, you know, they're building communities, being inclusive, and we consult with people, or community engagement, but that's always after the fact, and they don't actually make any changes unless they get taken to judicial review or, you know, notified consent. But that report I've sent you, which I'll be sending to the ministers once they are signed, I have sent it off to Christopher Luxon, Brooke van Velden, Chris Bishop, and they've all actually personally responded. Well, I know Christopher Luxon, I got a response saying he's been given the report to review it. So it's obviously getting the attention of everyone incoming to Parliament, you know, from the leaders. So I got a call yesterday from Suze Redmond.
Right.
She's the local MP, and she said to me that once the minister is assigned, she's going to try and get him to come down to Ohakune and actually speak with everyone about it, because a report shows one thing, and she was actually at the meeting. You should give her a call, because she would be a good... Yes,
she's on my list of people to contact.
Yeah. She was at the public meeting, and when I spoke to her yesterday, she also said that she can't see anything good about what they're doing here, based on the location, the lack of jobs, the lack of GP, no public transport, high cost of living. So she's very for having the Minister of Housing, once assigned, to come down and actually speak to people and get a feel and understanding, because a report only lists a small amount of what's going on. There's so much more than that. So yeah, give her a call. I'm happy to share her number if you don't have it, but yeah.
Okay. So what about the long-term housing for workers, though? Because, I mean, I think, you know, there has been a shortage of rental accommodation for hospitality workers.
Yeah, so on that, the people that I've spoken to, and one of them was the Cypress Tree, which is a restaurant in Ohakune.
Yes.
And she spoke up at the public meeting, and she said, at normal times, they have, I can't remember the exact numbers, I'd have to look that up, but she said they might have 8 chefs on during non-winter periods, and then over the winter period, they have 16 chefs, so they need like another, you know, they need to house 8 additional people, and they can't find rentals to do that. But those type of roles that you're talking about are not long-term rental workers accommodation. That is a short term, because it's only to cover the season, and there's been multiple accommodation providers that have recently in the last year or two spent millions on building renter accommodation. It might not be a house that's a 2 or 3 bedroom house, but it is for workers' accommodation. So those people have invested millions, and these proposed long-term worker accommodations, the only people, so that there's no one I know other than perhaps a police officer that may need a house. They've tried to say, hey, we need this long-term worker accommodation for a GP. Well, actually, if a GP is moving from Auckland or wherever it is to Ohakune, you can buy a house for 300 to 500,000 in Ohakune, and if you're a GP, you certainly should be able to afford. If you've been to university and stuff, you could get a mortgage if you're a GP. So the type of people that they're using to say that they need long-term worker accommodation, and I know the school has in the past said that they need accommodation for teachers and stuff. And they actually do. The school just recently, I believe, built a few extra houses with support from government funding or Kangiora or something like that. So those needs are being met. And all the examples that we've been provided that this workers' accommodation is needed for have been for actually short-term seasonal jobs, not long-term workers' accommodation. So, yeah. The paper mill near what's it, WPI is it? You know what I'm talking about, on the way to no, okay, never mind.
WPI.
I think it's WPI. They're on the way to the army base and stuff from Ohakune.
Yes.
Yeah, so they've got a mill on the right. They actually have a few houses of their own in Ohakune that they have staff in, and they have said that they may be interested in purchasing or renting houses in Ohakune for additional staff. But again, that's assisting a commercial company for their staff. That's not a. I don't see why the council should be assisting a big corporation. To get their workers into, not even to work in Ohakune, to be honest, but you see where I'm going with this? Like, why is council getting involved with gifting or selling land at below market value to support corporations or companies? That's not their role as a local government. It's.
Yeah, sure. So, as a society, as a group, like, what are people's feelings about what could or should be done with the land?
Do you know the Frews, Peggy and Ron Frew?
Yeah.
So Ron and Peggy are both against this. Peggy doesn't like to. Don't quote that. But he went to one of the council meetings, and actually they have offered to purchase that land and gift it to the Carrot Park so that the community can use it, and then council could use that money to purchase a few homes, for the social needs that are required. And I put that to council about 3 months ago. Ron stood up in front of council and at a public meeting and stated he would purchase the land, but that's gone nowhere with council. So, the community would like to see that area used for kept beautiful, that park to be safe, to continue to encourage tourism and people to stop there. We don't want to see it put at risk with an urban sprawl of 44 homes that are intensified, where the consent, there's so many flaws in the consent to do with. They're going to be building houses 1.5 metres from the boundary next to the walkway. They're not keeping within the district plans, rules and policies of, a house is meant to be 7.5 metres away from the boundary, the front of the property. It's meant to be 1.5 metres from the side of the boundary. And all of these houses, they're proposing to break all the rules in the book, including safety. So your driveway is meant to have a certain amount of distance between the next driveway for a safety. for safety concerns. Your houses in the town are meant to have 2 car parks per residential house. They're proposing 1 car park at some of these houses, which is breaking the district plan and rules. So from the start and conception of this project, they have not admitted to the public that they are not complying to the rules that the community have agreed to. So the safety concern is real high. But yeah, so going back to what would the community want, there's been talk of the rugby grounds later having further recreational services and sharing, the same toilets and facilities and stuff like that to save on money. What's the point in having a tennis court or something on the other side of town? Like this is in the spatial plan for Ohakune that's been worked on for 3 years. If you look at that, the draft says this section is low density residential. They're proposing to put high density residential. The spatial plan says that all the land, field 2 and 3, would be used for, or maybe not both of those fields, but would be used for recreational facilities and sporting and that sort of thing. But they're contradicting and not doing what the community has been talking about. It's
right. Okay. Yeah, because I know Rabbit said he would like to see if the
houses built in field 2.
Well, he would like to see the entrance, if it does go ahead, that the entrance way should be down that end. To use the council's own road, so NZTA wouldn't have to be involved, and it would, be safer. It sounds quite sensible. And when I mentioned that to Weston, he said yes, that was something that could be considered.
I know Viv
that hasn't been ruled out. So
when I spoke to Rabbit about it 3 months ago, because we the ones that suggested that, and they have agreed, Viv and Rabbit both. He said to me they both were looking at that alternative, but I believe the pricing came back, and because it's all wetland where the proposed road is, it would be too costly. So Kangiora weren't going to pay for it, and council can't afford it, and that would be too expensive. So that is not going to be an option. I have requested under OIA, which I'm waiting for, that pricing for that option, because it was apparently emailed to Rabbit, and he mentioned it in one of the council meetings, saying, it's good to see the pricing of that, and hey, let's just spend a bit more and make everyone happy. But yeah, I'm pretty certain that's not even on the mayor and CEO's mind, because they can't accept a change like that, because if they even start to look at it and plan it, they have to be breaking ground by March next year, otherwise the funding is gone. That's one of the that's one of the requirements under the COVID fund. It had to be breaking ground within 12 months of the contract being signed, otherwise the funding is cancelled.
Yes, there was that impetus there, wasn't there? That was,
so that's the shovel-ready requirement. So the simple fact is, all of the recommendations and suggestions and everything that the community are making, they can't do them, and they won't do them because it's impossible. So they pretty much forced into going ahead with the project as is, without any community concerns being listened to. Otherwise, they don't get the funding.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that seems to be the case. All right. Hey, well, look, that's really good. And thank you, Barry. I do appreciate your time and your candid response.
Yeah, sorry, I was babbling on there. It's a lot of.
Oh no, that's fine, because as you say, this has been in your head for a few months now.
Yeah.
So, and I'm just sort of trying to get my head around it all. But yeah, that's great. So I will be interested to hear, because I think that it would be good to get some clarity around whether they would bring in people from outside the region, because I know Ngāti Rangi is adamant that there are more people within this
certainly, yeah,
district who need housing.
On that comment, so Ngāti Rangi from the start said that there's 75 people or something on the waiting list.
Yes, that was so that number has now reduced. So
I'm talking about they have a personal register because
their own register.
Because
yes,
they say that people are too scared to come forward to MSD and go on the register, either because they don't believe they will get a house, or number two is they don't want their details or names known to government agencies, like conspiracy theorist type stuff. So it's Helen from Ngāti Rangi actually sent me a apparent independent report that was written quoting numbers of people that are waiting for housing, and I actually called up that independent company, Richard, I think his name was. I can forward it to you, but he said to me, no, that wasn't a quote, like a quote of a statistic. That was a quote of one person's, they were asked. Yeah, so Ngāti Rangi have been using that figure, and she sent to me, look here, that's quoted, and I went to those people, and they've actually now updated and corrected the document to make sure it was highlighted. And that same day I spoke to that independent company or organisation, Ngāti Rangi called them and said, we will no longer be using your services for any statistics or anything. So they have been quoting these numbers from just general stuff that they're reading without actually verifying the source of the data. So that was quite an eye opener, and for Ngāti Rangi to they've used them for a couple of years, to suddenly say we're not going to use your data because it was incorrect and we've been quoting it incorrect, was an eye opener.
Oh, okay, yeah. I mean, she's not wrong about people having that paranoia, though.
For certain. But I mean,
because the census showed that people who thought the census, they were too scared to.
But I mean, if the problem with that, and the problem with council and Ngāti Rangi not openly saying, hey, you need to do this, means that Kangiora believe that there's no need for housing in the district, so they won't spend money or give grants to build anything. So A, houses don't get built, and B, people don't go on to the register. They're not being means tested or verified that they need the help. Whereas we don't know if Ngāti Rangi is just housing people. And Ngāti Rangi, here's an interesting fact, and I don't write anything up about this, but it is on the website. From the very start, Helen said that she would not be supporting the sale and purchase agreement with Kangiora unless they got priority access to the housing, both the workers and social housing for the iwi.
Right.
And they flat out refused it. And then a few weeks later, there was a response which has been redacted, both from Megan Woods and from Kangiora, stating that, everything is agreed. There is actually a draft agreement between Ngāti Rangi and Kangiora, which they will not release under OIA because it's not signed as yet. But we're pretty certain that there is, to get Ngāti Rangi to agree to this project happening, they would be partnered because the government said that they had to partner with the iwi. But B is they're receiving some sort of incentive. So if you look at the project, there's 44 lots that have been advertised, a 15, 14, that's affordable, social and workers accommodation, 15, 14. But there's that equates to 44 lots. There are 46 residential lots being developed, and under OIA they will not tell us, and they keep rejecting our question on who the other 2 lots are going to. So who is getting those additional 2 lots? Council will not respond, and Kangiora will not respond, and now Kangiora have told me we will not be responding to this question again, because we've asked it for about 4 months now in different ways and said, hey, And the response was, there is an agreement, a draft agreement between Ngātarangi and Kangiora, but they will not provide it, and it doesn't specify that they're going to get those 2 additional lots. Our understanding is that if slight amendments need to be made to the design process for the consent to get approved, it may end up that they only have 1 additional lot. So rather than being 46, it might be 45. So the exact wording in the that they won't state. So they said it doesn't specifically say 2 lots will be assigned to Ngātarangi. So that leads me to believe, okay, it might be 1 lot is assigned to Ngātarangi, or it will be 2 if the consent is approved. So that is definitely a rabbit hole I would go down and try to get that information, because they will not release it to us. Even in parliamentary questions, they answered there is 44 lots required under the CIP funding, and there's no formal agreement with Ngātarangi. So they didn't directly answer the question, the parliamentary questions, but they sort of alluded there is no formal agreement with Ngātarangi. So
that's interesting.
Yeah, that's definitely a question I'd go back to council or Kangiora and try and find out, because that's one question we just can't get the answer to.
Okay. Well, yeah, because the resource consent was lodged in July, I believe.
5th of July, and accepted the 25th of July, I think, for processing.
Right. Yeah, okay, all right. Well, there's, more questions here for me to be asking, so I will get on to it.
No, all good. And like I say, if you've got any questions, concerns, or you want proof of any documents or anything, I've got them all, so, yeah.
Yeah, well, thanks for your time. It's appreciated, and I'll call you back if I need to.
Awesome. I appreciate your call, Thanks so much.
All right. Cheers, Barry.
See you,
thanks, bye.